So, yes, I'm Josh from DeSciWorld. We do community stuff, as we mentioned. I won't go through it. But today, I want to give you a brief presentation about what we call a knowledge-backed economy, which is the philosophical underpinning of why we're building our technical product, Proof of Knowledge. There's a brief technical description of it. It's not particularly deep, so we can talk afterwards if you want to talk about the technicalities of it. And I do want to take 5 minutes at the end, so Philip, please give me a 5-minute warning if you can. I want to take 5 minutes at the end to just chat with everybody a bit openly in this room about DeSci, the future of DeSci, and you know, how we can move forward together. So this is the knowledge-backed economy. And is it down or up? Yeah, I saw you pressing it. I saw you pressing up, and I thought, okay, we're good. This is a knowledge-backed economy, and I'm Joshua from DeSciWorld. Please follow us at DeSciWorld. Go to our website, DeSci.world. We have an information aggregation hub, and a new one is coming out this month. So if you're interested in being listed there, please let me know. Nope. Okay. So in a knowledge-backed economy, this is about sort of an understanding of what a knowledge-backed economy is and how we might get there. On the left-hand side, we have an image of the manufacturing-based economy, which is after the Industrial Revolution, basically how the entire of the world has grown on the western side of the world and how that's trickled down over the rest of the world. We moved with automation of big industrial machines from a manufacturing-based economy to a service-based economy in most of the Northern Hemisphere. The service-based economy includes teaching, lawyers, cashiers, cleaners, whichever. As the manufacturing-based economy was automated away by large machines, we'll probably see the service-based economy also being automated away through smaller machines and things such as AI. So, your lawyers, your teachers, your admin, even your cleaners and your cashiers are already being automated away and will continue to be so more and more into the future. So if we can't make and we can't do, then what can we do as a society, as a people? And we think that at DeSciWorld, that if we can't make and we can't do, the one thing we are very good at is thinking and sharing. And so we believe that with no manufacturing and no services as a viable economic value, we believe in a knowledge-backed economy as the future of human contribution, in particular in an AI-driven future. So to understand what a knowledge-backed economy is, let's briefly understand what is knowledge. We're going to give two definitions here, the dictionary definition of knowledge and the current understanding of knowledge. So the dictionary definition of knowledge is the sum of what is known. Everything that we know, that is what knowledge is. AI is particularly good at synthesizing that which is already known. The information that we already know, AI is very good at taking that and giving back basically a condensed version of this knowledge. But that does present a really interesting opportunity to us as humans, because our brains, as of yet, we are not at AGI. Currently, our brains is the only thing that can create the new knowledge. We can draw new insights and we can create creative outputs that AI will then learn from. So this presents an opportunity to us over that of AI. And there's also the canonical understanding or the accepted understanding of knowledge. And that is dictated largely by institutions. This is a university, but just think of any institution, expert groups, governments, regulatory bodies, etc. The institution will decide which of these ideas, represented here with a brain, which of these ideas is considered to be true or canon, and it's given a mark or a stamp of approval. And those that are not considered to be true are sort of pushed out of existence, out of the knowledge base. So we have an understanding of two types of knowledge. The sum of what is known as a dictionary definition, but also that which is accepted by our society. And here we complete the cycle from manufacturing to service to potentially a knowledge-based economy. But in an economy, how do we value the inputs and the outputs? In a manufacturing-based economy, it's very simple. We can take the raw materials, determine a price for them, and then create some kind of output and determine a price for that. There's a market for this. Just like in a service-based economy, we have a desire for marketing services, for cleaning services, for teachers, and people are willing to pay up to a certain point, and there's people who are willing to do these jobs for a certain wage. That's the value of the service economy. But in a knowledge-based economy, how do we value knowledge? So we'll explore this a little bit here. Currently, in our society, we have two key ways to value knowledge. That is the patenting system, right, or the institutional grants and the institutional prizes system. On the patenting system, you essentially have a bunch of research which is done. It comes from ideas, it turns into larger ideas, it then becomes productive, something that can be paid for, something that can be patented, typically along the lines of cleaning products or pharmaceuticals or fertilizers or biotech or such things, or our favorite in society, weapons of mass destruction. So you do a lot of research, maybe some of your other research gets built upon to a point that it can become paid for and someone's going to put a price on it. That's how we value that type of knowledge. And the other way to value knowledge is by an institutional prize, which would be a retroactive reward. Say, for example, the Nobel Prize. You do some good work and it gets recognized, you can get some payment for that. Or the grants system, which is a proactive valuation of knowledge. You write your grants and you get some money to go and carry out that research. So these are the two core ways that we value knowledge right now. But there is a big problem with this. This is an analogy for the way that we value knowledge right now. This plant is a productive idea, a piece of research that became something valuable. The little mark of approval there comes from the patenting system or from the institutional prizes and grants, and it receives the money that is determined by that value. So this idea becomes valuable and it's given money, thanks to this system before. But in reality, this is actually a plant which has grown from the dead and the dying ideas of many other people in society. Many other researchers have contributed their research to this intellectual corpus to get this research to a productive end. How many people in here are a researcher? Great. As a researcher, do you cite other people in your work? You'd hope so. So in that process, what you're doing is you're borrowing their ideas, right? And as we know in the publishing system, we've had a few talks today, the value mechanisms are all screwed anyways, and even if you did get the money, there's not really it's not a very good mechanism to take that input and to give it to those that are cited. It's normally a peer-to-peer sort of thing, which as a researcher, you're building on the ideas of others. And this is a wonderful part of science. This is what science is all about. This is why science is originally a decentralized process. But in a knowledge-backed economy, when we try to create value from our knowledge, these mechanisms are no longer sufficient because only the end researcher, only that person that gets the grant or gets the patent is the one that gets the value. And that's not sustainable for an economy. So this leads us to the inevitable conclusion that everybody has some kind of value to give. Even if you're not a published researcher, maybe a published researcher heard an idea on the radio or saw something in an article that then inspired them to create these new ideas. And this act of building on other people's knowledge means that the underlying knowledge also has a value. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. What about misinformation or bad ideas? This is a big problem, okay? And it's something that we all need to tackle. But currently, we are living in a crisis of truth as a society. And so the determining factor of what is misinformation and what is not misinformation is being chosen for us by institutions which we know are not fit for purpose anymore. So we need new mechanisms for valuing knowledge. We need new mechanisms for verifying and validating knowledge. And so we at DeSciWorld, maybe, are developing a protocol called Proof of Knowledge. It's a blockchain-based protocol that allows you to distribute, transfer, and validate knowledge in a decentralized fashion. We call it POK for short. So very briefly, POK is 4 simple things. It's a knowledge graph, a decentralized knowledge graph. A knowledge graph is a graphical representation of data and how it relates to other pieces of data. We put that knowledge graph on-chain. We put the vectors of that knowledge graph on-chain, so they are checked and they are transparent, and you can basically document the entire interaction with that chain. We then use this knowledge graph, this vector database, to we power it with AI, because most RAG LLM systems, which is a new AI system, utilizes knowledge graphs in its discovery process. Oh my goodness. And then once you've put it on chain and you've had it read by AI, you can assign incentives throughout the process. So whenever the AI queries your vectors in the database, you can provide an incentive layer for that. And this line here is where we step in with our incentive also. In our system and proof of knowledge, the fundamental unit of knowledge in the system is called an n-gram. It's a knowledge n-gram, the K is silent. And the n-gram is basically an on-chain data structure that attests to a wallet address and attests to a data point. This means that your data point, when it is utilized by AI, can be tracked and quantified and given a value. The n-gram is modeled after a theoretical substrate in the brain, which is supposedly where your memories are stored. So we can call an n-gram maybe a wrapper for knowledge or a knowledge oracle for those in Web3. And this is where the oracle lives. It's in the knowledge graph on-chain. This is just an example of what an output of proof of knowledge might look like. If you're querying a chatbot, normally you get an answer, which is just some synthesized answer from a number of underlying data points, but you don't know where that data came from. So in this system, if you query the chatbot, it's going to go to its vectors and pull the data and give you a response. In our system, if your data is queried from the vector database, then it's actually hyperlinked in the response. The act of your data being cited gives you a point to your data unit. And so now your knowledge, whenever it's utilized by the AI in its response, is actually being given a value. What this does is it puts the human or the brain back at the center of the AI-driven future. It makes AI personable again, because you understand why that AI said that answer. Rather than it being this all-knowing robot, it's actually just our service, it's our tool, providing us a coordination layer for our knowledge. Also, another fun thing you can do is actually combine many of the ideas of other people into a single index of knowledge, which is graphicized on the left here. This single index of knowledge can then basically be wrapped in a chatbot, and you can speak directly to a group of people, a particular collective of interest. And with the act of having citations for your knowledge when it's read by AI, you actually are receiving points to your knowledge, which we incentivize with money. But these points can mean anything. They can be reputation, they can be a ranking system of this knowledge is more useful in society than this knowledge. It's just a points tracking system every time it's used by the AI. So the possibilities are really quite endless. And so we believe that the proof of knowledge protocol will be the first step in enabling a knowledge-backed economy, which we believe is an essential next step of society after AI automates away most of our value. Just to finish, this is what we call the accepted sequence, which is your knowledge is aggregated through an institution where it's accepted and valued, and then at the end of it, we get canon or accepted knowledge. So our ideas go through the institutional process and then become knowledge. But in the revised sequence, which is much more messy, but altogether much more beautiful, we have knowledge which is derived from humans, which is derived from AIs, which interacts with other humans, with other AIs, and works with the institutions in this messy mix that means that knowledge is not just some monopolistic thing. Knowledge is something useful. Knowledge is something that we can track across all of the world. This was a brief introduction to the knowledge-backed economy with proof of knowledge. I'll take any questions on that if anyone has any, and if I have 5 minutes, I'll freestyle on something else. Okay, so first, any questions on this?
Because the model is statistical, how can you really attribute to particular quotes in particular paper every AI answer?
It's not particular quotes or papers. It's the n-gram itself is a data unit which contains structured data. Whenever that, and that's vectorized, whenever that vector is used in context for a response, that's tracked.
So you have a neural network which can teach on base with this graph.
Sorry, say again?
You said you have a neural network which will teach on base with this graph.
We're not training any models. It's BYOM. You can plug any of your models in. It's a database, essentially. It's just an API, which is the vectorized data, which is attested to a wallet address. And so any model can be used to power this system. You can bring ChatGPT, you can bring Llama, you can bring Mistral. We are going to create our own model optimized for this system, but any model can work.
How you can track back the answer from the model to the vector
It's not from the model, it's from the actual query itself. It's just like, if you can imagine the model as the core, and then the vector database is the outside of this core, we're tracking the usage of those vectors. Any other questions? No? Okay, so we have a bit of time. So what we're trying to build here, is we like to liken it to a bonfire, right? And a bonfire is just some warm place, and it's in itself kind of insignificant, but it becomes significant when it attracts lots of people to stand around it and share in the flames. And that's when you get tribes and societies and eventually things like this, right? Someone starts with a bonfire. We're presented here with a really great opportunity in DeSci to really recreate the system, to change things very, very differently, in academia in particular, and science in particular, but that extends to the entire society. Without the progress that we make in science, we wouldn't be here. This is obvious. We're also transitioning kind of towards a science-based, popularity-based thing where our favorite people in society are no longer strongmen, kings, gods. They're scientists and techies, and that's wonderful in many ways, but also very dangerous in many ways, because we're removing our accountability of the dangers of some of these texts. We're removing our accountability to the fellow human, especially to nature, right? And so DeSci does present us a wonderful opportunity to redefine what it means to do science and be a scientist. And I think everybody in this room can contribute to this idea that science doesn't have to just be acceleration or progress for the sake of progress. Science is just, understanding the truth around us and better understanding how we interact with the world around us. There's some projects that we'll present later and some projects that are very popular in the DeSci space that believe in this concept called effective accelerationism, which is sometimes written as E/ACC. It's effective accelerationism, and it's the idea of accumulating resources in whatever manner, using those resources to accelerate scientific progress as quickly as possible, to reach the point which is considered a singularity, which is the convergence of many technologies in which the other side of the singularity, who knows what will happen. And this is where AGI comes in, and basically it's the unknown. And for many people, it's a beautiful, exciting moment. But I think it's really important that as a space, we recognize that it's a very dangerous moment as well. If you don't know what's on the other side, we need to be very careful about rushing headfirst into it. If we do decide to rush headfirst into this, we should do so as a collective. Everybody should be very aware of the dangers, very aware of the potential outcomes, and I think 99.9% of society are not. This will present a problem because not only will people be uneducated and unaware, they'll be scared and they'll push back. The vast majority of the working class, when they find out that their freedoms are going to be taken by technology, they will push back. And whether or not the intentions of the tech community are good, they will push back and there will be a lot of issues. And so we really need to be very careful about this accelerationism. And I think some people in this room would subscribe to EAC. I would say, I'm not telling you to slow down. I'm not a Luddite. But I think DeSci can use the decentralized knowledge infrastructure to better spread the ideas of accelerationism, better spread the dangers of accelerationism, and together as a society we can actually move towards something a little bit more sustainable, a little bit more natural, and something that is altogether much more human. So I would love to hear anyone's thoughts against that, pushback, but I think it's really important. I'm just glad to have a chance to say this, especially on camera, so I can share it as well. So thank you. Any questions? No? Cool. Well, yes.
It's more of a reflection. I think everyone in the room here has got your back. Like, I think we're all on the same. We're here because we believe in the same cause. The challenge is how to convince people outside of this room. Can you give some thoughts on how you, like, if we all leave here today, tomorrow, what is the next thing that we should be saying to people that we meet? What advice could you give to us?
So I think we can learn lessons from our favorite organization in the world, the CIA. The CIA has a method for influencing people that they call MICE. It's an acronym, M-I-C-E, which stands for money, ideology, coercion, and ego. According to the CIA handbook, that is how people are convinced on things. Either you pay them, you convince them, you hit them over the head, or you make them feel really good about themselves, and so they do it because it's their ego. And I think that this is, the really simple way to put it. Can you pay people to do the right thing? I mean, we're hoping to do that with a knowledge-backed economy. Can you convince people to do the right thing? Something like this is a good idea. The ideological thing is something that a lot of scientists, I think, are very, very concerned about. If you mention ideology to scientists, they no, but that in itself is an ideology, right? To not think that we have a responsibility on this earth to do something positive is an ideology. It's, nihilism. Coercion, I don't think we should do that. Don't think we should start hitting people over the head to do what we ask. That's how it ends really badly. You can do it if you want, but I didn't tell you to do it. It does work. That's the last resort, right? It's worked for many, 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 many millennia. But maybe we can try before that to not go with the coercion. And ego, unfortunately, this is probably one of the most powerful ones. And in science in particular, researchers love to work on that ego thing. So, for example, with proof of knowledge, the points are fungible and could be used as reputation. We're therefore developing a reputation system in this for the purpose of saying, I earned this many reputation points this month, and I'm cooler than you, and whatever. And so these are the 4 things, and I think really when you go and talk to people, if you don't have the money, try and go on the ideology ego. If you can generate value, try and give people money. I think that people will just, if the money comes in, and for example, scientists publishing through some of these decentralized systems, if they earn a good wage and they don't have to pay for it, they'll do that, and they'll do that, and they'll do that, and eventually their colleagues will be like, well, why am I paying to have this, and etc. So I think there's a critical mass, like a Trojan horse kind of thing, where we go in, we work with institutions, we say, hey, look, you can share some of these beautiful distribution methods, you can have some of this incentive, and then eventually the scientists will say, wait, why am I giving 90% of it to the institution? I think that's probably how this whole system will work, is through a Trojan horse. But otherwise, cool. Thanks, guys.
Dank, Fanny.